Johnny Rock Show. Rockin' 101, the Rock Station.
8:20 on the Johnny Rock Show. Hold on here. By the way, I never liked the ending of Blind Melon's No Rain. Rockin' 101. Mark, are you still there?
I am.
You know, over the holidays, Christmas night to be exact, we lost a friend, a radio friend, and a good friend of St. Cloud, and a good friend to the world. Radio icon, I'll call him, Pat Eberts. And on the phone, we have good friend to Pat Eberts and another good friend to radio, Mr. Mark Ellis. You're on the air. Please don't swear. How was that for an intro?
That's the best intro I'll ever get, John. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I've known Mark for, oh, God, how long have I known you? Is it 54 or 55 years now? No, we've worked together. We've worked against each other. And at the end of the day, it's great to have friends like you because you actually sent me a message the day after Christmas saying that we lost Pat Eberts. And I'll never forget it. It's one of those things. I was at a movie with my son. And by the way, don't go see that new Hunger Games movie. It was awful. It was awful before I got your message and even worse after. But I couldn't believe it. I knew Pat Eberts for years, decades. I first met him. I played it earlier. The Chuckers Playhouse when Chucker was at the opening of Planet Hollywood. Pat came up to me, introduced himself. And he said, I'm the new sidekick on the new morning show over at KDWB. And I was like, Dave who? So I didn't know any of them, but we got to know each other over the years. I think you worked with him closer than I did, yes?
Yeah, I worked with him for about 10 years, from 2012 all the way up until early 2023. So, and I didn't know Pat that well when he was on KDWB. I worked at a competitive radio station, but kind of like you, I knew of him and I knew he was kind of a wacky guy. But I'll tell you, John, and I know you're gonna play a bit that's really funny coming up. But the one thing about Pat that always stood out to me was even though he always looked at everything as how can I make it bigger? How can I make this funny? How can I make people laugh? He was a genuinely good-hearted person that cared about everybody he met. So, like when you told that story about Planet Hollywood, and he would go up to anybody, and he would automatically endear himself to people. And that's the thing that'll always stand out about him to me was just, how open he was about wanting to know about you, wanting to understand more about, who you were, your family, what you cared about. And that's the thing that will always resonate with me is just kind of what a good-hearted person he was,
Well, a lot of compassion. And that's one reason I could never be good at sales because, sure, I care about other people, but not like Pat did. He wanted to know everything. You're right. In fact, when I moved to St. Cloud a couple of years ago, he was the first one that reached out and said, come on over to my house and we'll have some lunch. And because he lived in St. Cloud till the day he died. He did mornings at a top 40 station here, and he never left. He left the radio here, but, we still play a Sox car wash ad that has him all over it. I played it earlier, and that's something. And it's just, so there you go. He could talk to you about family, and he cared. He could sell the heck out of radio. He could do radio, and just a saint. And it's really too bad. And I'm heartbroken as the whole radio community is, and my condolences to you, Mark Ellis.
Well, let me tell you a quick funny story. So I actually exchanged messages with his daughter, so she okayed me with this one. So about 15 years ago, Isabel was 7 at the time, and she was a big Hannah Montana fan. And there was this contest at the Mall of America where people got up and would do a Hannah Montana song, and they were judged, and the winner of the contest won a trip to Florida, like a VIP experience, a Hannah Montana all the bells and whistles. And so Pat, being the loving father, and Isabel loving Hannah Montana, Pat got up in a gold jumpsuit with a golden wig and proceeded to do a Hannah Montana song in front of, hundreds or thousands of people that were gathered there, and made a total goofball of himself. But he did it because he wanted to win that contest. And his daughter loved Hannah Montana so much that it was important for him. So he didn't care about how much he embarrassed himself. If he did it for the love of his family, he would do anything. And so it was just a classic story. And if you ever want to watch, the video, you can look up Pat Eberts, Hannah Montana on YouTube, and it'll be 4 minutes that you'll laugh hard. So it just kind of illustrated what kind of a father he was, too. He would do anything for his children, and, Isabel, John, Patrick, and Christian. I was fortunate to get to know them. He would bring them to events that we would do. He welcomed my son and I into his family, like you said when you moved to St. Cloud. For all the goofiness that Pat, did over the course of his career, I still go back to the person that he was and how he endeared himself to people, and even maybe at his own expense, made other people look good and did things for people that made him happy. And it just truly was amazing, some of the things he was able to do in his life. So I wanted to share that story.
And I remember that whole incident because at the time, this is kids before Miley Cyrus was twerking. She was this huge tween star. That the TV show was Hannah Montana, and she came to play like the XL or the Target Center. But it was one of the first times that Taylor Swift did it. But before that, Miley Cyrus did it because the parents that couldn't get tickets were all up in arms. Right? It was this whole controversy. It was sold out so fast, and leave it to Pat to figure out a way. You're right. You got to put on the wig, and that's great. Well, again, I'm sorry for all of our loss. Thank you, Mark Ellis, for coming on here. I'm going to play us out with an example of what Pat would do on the radio, just to entertain. And come on back anytime, Mark. Hopefully under other circumstances. Okay.
Thanks, John. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you. Here's Pat Eberts checking into a hotel with a sheep.
Well, this isn't actually really a pet. It's more of a companion for me. I don't believe so. Okay, all right. Well, what would be the rate in case I did have quiet ivory, honey? What, would there be an extra charge for the sheep?
Rest in peace, Pat Eberts.
The Johnny Rock Show. Rockin' 101. The Rock.